Hello and welcome to the second edition of Barbados Racing. I'm Andy Akili Thornhill, your host. By the way, thanks for your encouraging responses to our first take. In this edition, give him a yard and he'll probably take two. A reference, of course, to noted commentator Lyndon Yard, who has two in-depth interviews for this show. One with equine therapist Sean Hall and the other with legendary owner DeVere Davis. Part one with Davis. Lyndon, it's over to you. With Sean Hall first up in the saddle.
Thank you very much, Andy. My guest today is multi-travel. He loves speed. He's the son of feared West Indies legendary fast bowler Sobeys Hall. Of course, it all got started in Barbados. He traveled throughout the region, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, even Martinique. His skills have taken him over to India, across to Canada, and down under in Australia. We speak of none other than Sean Hall, who has brought his considerable talents to bear, from his success as a jockey, to his insight as a trainer, and to his healing hands as an equine therapist. Experience and innovation has been the keys to the industry's growth and development. Hydrotherapy has been a principal technique employed in preparing the horses. I caught up with Sean at Pebbles Beach, the melting pot where many a racehorse early morning therapeutic swim is conducted. Hello, hi and welcome. I'm Lyndon Yard. Welcome to Barbados Racing. We see in the backdrop, you can see horses having a swim. How beneficial is it to horses swimming on any given day?
It's very beneficial. When horses have injuries, that's when you really will let you a track like the Garrison where it's pretty tight, the sand track is pretty hard. It's now getting fixed ready. The race track is now going to be even, but before it was very uneven. Horses had a lot of injuries to deal with, and coming to take them off their legs, where they could get fit by just not using the legs too much, pounding on the ground and that kind of stuff.
What kind of injuries do we generally look at where the feet is concerned?
Alright, here in Barbados, I find you see a lot of tendons and chip knees and that kind of stuff. Whereas in North America, I find you found a lot of chip ankles. You don't really see a lot of tendons up there. They see chips in the knees and ankles. So, since I've been doing this rehab thing, what I've learned a lot about horses is that most of those problems come from the hind end, right? When the pounding on the ground, hind end and the shoulders, especially the right shoulder here in Barbados, because that's the lead leg, right? So horses tend to, when they get hurt behind, they start shifting the weight up front. And that's when they start getting a lot of injuries on either the left or right side of the tendon or ankles and that kind of stuff. Horses get very fit, very fast swimming. Very fit, very fast. I find out if I have a horse swimming, what I swim them for a long time, sometimes 6 feet or whatever, but I could go straight into breezing them from dead to swimming. You know what I mean? I don't have to start all over again by training them and that kind of stuff. It works well on the breathing, all kinds of muscles, obviously, horses use when they swim. And it's amazing what swimming does for horses, right? Especially in Canada. We had two places where horses used to go to swim. One was at Fort Erie, which is usually called the pool over there. It's nothing fancy. It's a dungeon, you know what I mean? A dark hole, like it. You know what I mean? Horses used to just swim and run races there. And the other place is down in Guelph, have somebody who knows what they're doing. First of all, having somebody who knows how to swim, just in case they get in trouble, they have the techniques to make wrong things right. And I can't swim, so you won't see me going out there trying to get heroes on a horse. I see some guys wear jackets and that kind of stuff. But in all fairness, I think you have to have somebody who knows what they're doing and try not to put the horse in the hands of amateur.
Question would be, can a horse drown while swimming? And if so, can you care to explain, would you explain to the public exactly what happened?
Most of the time when horses get in trouble here down at the beach here, usually if you see some of those boats have long ropes and stuff. Some horses get caught up in the ropes and that kind of stuff. And that's when something like that will really happen, right? Unless we take a horse too far out and they tend to get in trouble. But I don't think we have ever had trouble here in Barbados with a horse in trouble like that. Yes, getting caught up in the rope and things. I think one of my guys one time had to save a horse. Nippers, he had to come back in and get scissors and actually cut the rope to free the horse. So those things happen, but it's very rare thing. Soaking is when you come bring the horse, like what these guys are doing right now. Soaking and letting salt water just go all over the body and that kind of stuff. Just to make the body feel good. And then there's other horse out here now where he's exercising, he's swimming, and that's basically like, I like 5 to 10 minutes. That's my limit. I mean, 10 minutes is really very, very long. But 5 minutes is my usual limit for a horse. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you have a horse that is preparing for longer races and that kind of stuff, then you step it up to that. You know what I mean? Where the sprinters and that kind of stuff. No, you train different amplitude going longer, shorter. When I went to India, it was very English. We had a lot of English doctors. I was fortunate to ride with guys like Willie Carson and those guys. They were in India at the time I was here. Going to Australia now, the Australian style of riding is kind of different. You know what I mean? They used to stick a lot, a windmill type of rhythm, action, and most of those horses, you see, if you're put out from home and you can't pick a winner because horses just keep tumbling at you at every second of the race, you know, that kind of stuff. So, and it's just the style of riding though, they were a cross between English and American type of style, you know what I mean? They tend to get lower down, but with the whip action and that kind of stuff, it was different. But as a youngster, I was 17 years old, and all I can say to you from doing that, when I came back home, I was a much improved rider.
Of course, Sean's travels was compliments of his father,
yes.
the then Reverend Wes Hall, now Sir Wes Hall.
Thanks to him.
Legend West Indies fast bowler. Obviously, he bowled way faster than Sean could ride, and Sean would use the horses as his gauge to be just as fast as his father. How is it different training horses in Canada in comparison to home here in Barbados?
Canada is a very professional track. I mean, you have everything that you want. Everything is well manicured. So come back home is kind of, if you're going to live in the house, you know you're going to come back and get what it is. You know what I mean? And sometimes people might hear me talking a lot, but I'm just trying to get my people to rise to the level. Because when you look at it, every one of our men who have left this country and gone out there are doing well right now. You know what I mean? So it means that something, that experience of being allowed to bloom, they've done that very well in Canada. And a good training facility, good everything, good, everything is well up there. So it's a big difference. I mean, I come in here and hear people hear me talking all the time and complaining. It's not like complaining. I just want my people to write level and do the right thing. In my early days in Canada, I met a lady called Leah Guitar, the vet. And they used to call her the voodoo woman. She used to do it all therapy. She never did much injection and that kind of stuff. She did a lot of hand massaging and then also dealing with the acupuncture of horses, right? So when that happened very early in my career, it was kind of new to me, and I found it very interesting. You know what I mean? That people work a horse body with this. I use a pen. I used to use the end of an injection needle, like to just touch the acupuncture point. And she was there, Sean, this horse left knee, right horse. You just need to pick the points, and she was always dead on. So I was like, this is great. You know what I mean? And I worked with her for many years, but when I got hurt in 2009 in Canada, and I wasn't working, I had a friend of mine called Kim Spears. She started with horses. And she told me, Sean, that instead of staying home all the time, come with me and see how this thing is done. At this stage, you know what I mean, I walk around her holding horses, and I kind of not too happy about the thing. This is what I come to. You know what I mean? I've been training horses a year ago. Now I'm holding horses to this lady here. I mean, I wasn't paying much attention, to tell you the truth. You know what I mean? I just holding horses and angry with myself or whatever. Then one day, went to a horse that Gordon Colburn was training. He said, Sean, whenever this horse runs, he'll win or run very well. And they said, so the particular day, the horse was running, we went to do work on this horse, and she, she did her thing, boom, 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 like hey, fish on this horse and doing her. So I got a racing program, checked the odds, the horse was 50 to 1. I said, Kim, this horse is 50 to 1. This horse ain't got a shot. She said, okay, we can stay. Then I had a steady hold there to watch this horse. I was more angry now, and I was like, then this horse came and ran 50 to 1 and just got beat. I mean, it came second, after he wanted some dollars, he went second. But the way how this horse ran, my mouth fell and dropped. So I was like, yeah, because they said, that means you're telling me then that you could do this all work on a horse and you can improve it so much and this horse can change. So that after that particular moment, that's when I started really getting interested in the laser treatments and that kind of stuff on horses. It was very easy for me to make that change, to take the laser. Because before, we used to do acupuncture work with horses. So the same points I find on horses that are hurting, we would put the needle in, right? You do the needle work and that kind of stuff. Now, you put the laser on top of those points, and what the laser does is just kill the points that's on it. But you got to know what you're doing, right? I mean, I see people getting, trying to get involved in one by the thing, but I've been doing this now for, many years. Until I went to Canada in 1998 or whatever. So I've learned over the years the points and that sort of thing. Horses for working with legal cards, and I've just taken that knowledge I had for legal cards, for what Kim Spears taught me, to doing Sean Hall. Since I've been back here, I've been doing dressage horses. I work with all the top horses. I have worked with all the top horses. Robert Foster, Sarah Jones, her Jumbo Glacken. There's so many horses. Lord Smith also, she went to the games, they won a medal and that kind of stuff. I worked on horse Alf, Robert Foster horse and Sheer Sheep. So yes, it's not only resources that I'm working with now. I work with a wide range of horses here in Barbados.
Well, that brings us to the end of this wonderful interview with the beautiful background you see. I don't know about you, my swimming credentials are too good, so I don't go further than I can stand up.
I'm even worse than you, my brother.
Okay, Sean, thanks for joining us and best of luck.
Cool, brother.
My second guest today is mild-mannered. He's a modest man whose gentle demeanor does not crave the limelight. His notable success as a reputable breeder of Derby horses have, however, propelled him to the top of the class of the racing annals. His accomplishments include breeding 2 Triple Crown winners, Coolbird and Zook, and as a breeder owner, 4 Derby winners, Happy Style, Coolbird, Ginger Dove, and Oberdove. These outstanding achievements uniquely places him among racing's elite. His recent success with Jericho demonstrates that George De Vere Davis will not be bolting the stable no time soon. I caught up with him at his farm. I'm joined today by Vere Davis, George De Vere Davis to my right, and even further right across is Sean Harris. And together, they form part of the outfit here that have produced one of Barbados' most recognized and loved horses in the Great Coolbird. Where did it all start for you?
I would say in the 1970s, was it? I used to be very friendly with old Paddy Prendergast, and I told him that I wanted to get into racing. My wife said that she didn't want me to get into racing. So when I was taking home Paddy one night, he says, I know what we'll do. I will send you a broodmare. And he sent me the horse La Paloma in foal to rearty. And he says, when that foal is born, your wife is going to like it so much that she's going to agree that you could race it. And that's where you can start. And that is exactly what happened.
How long have you been involved in horse racing?
I used to be a patrol judge for probably 15 or 20 years, many years ago. I can't even remember what years they were now. And I've always liked horse racing, but I really love breeding more than the horse racing.
Okay, before I go down the list over the years, coming back up from the 1940s back to the present time, let me introduce Sean Harris, who has been around your operation since 1978. Sean, you can go back to the very first time that you remember a horse from Vera Davis Barn would have made the Garrison Savannah.
So Uncle Vera invited me to come to the races in 1978 when he raced his mare, his Irish bred mare Lasona, who was by Ragusa. And at that summer meeting, at that time, Barbados Turf Club organised meetings. We had a meeting in January, meeting in March, meeting in May, August and November. We didn't have the seasons yet. That didn't start till 1981. And so that first race day, seeing all those races and seeing Lasona run in his royal blue and maroon colours, I was just hooked from the beginning, and really enjoyed every race day since then. So Lasona was not a particularly good horse on the track. She then was retired to stud and was bred to both Clavichord and Happy Boy, where she produced some foals, some of who got sold to Trinidad and raced there. And so La Paloma was the first brood mare that was imported in 1976. She had a colt foal by Young Emperor, who was later named Royal Mint. He was probably 18 hands, would never have raced here on our small oval track. So some Trinidadians liked him and offered Uncle Vera to take him to Trinidad and race, and off he went. So she was carrying a filly foal by Rarity, who was then named by Auntie Barbara Rare Dove. And Rare Dove then had an interesting setup in that at the time with our classification list, we've had from A to G. Locally bred Creoles had to start in F2. Normally when a horse is imported into Barbados at that time, they started in C2. So the Turf Club stewards, handicappers had a meeting and said, well look, this is the first time that we've had a filly imported in utero, born here but bred outside. So the decision was made that she could start her racing in F2 with all the other local breds, but because she was bred overseas, she would not be allowed to participate in any of the classics, which was a real shame. But anyhow, Rare Dove then started at racing at 2. She went 5.5 furlongs. We all figured there was no way she was going to be a sprinter given her bloodline. And then when the first race for 2 year-olds over 7.5 furlongs in the November meeting came, Englishman Willie Higgins was here, and trainer Freddie Thurkel asked him to ride her, and she duly won. So we knew, having beaten Ginger Lily, the subsequent Derby winner, Triple Crown winner of 1980, and Green Lady and Country Girl, who were the top 2 year-olds that year, we all figured, well, this filly, to have beaten them over 7, it shows that she has some ability. So Rare Dove then campaigned in 1980 as a 3-year-old. She beat her class and she quickly went up the classification ladder. She came up against Stephen and Mary Bino's Crimson Glory as a 3-year-old in a C class and lower, 9 furlong, ridden by Ranjit Kissoon with 90 pounds as against Crimson Glory's 126. And there's a very famous picture of Rare Dove beating her on the pole, Ranjit looking at Hugh Blades and smiling. And so we said, wow, what a filly, because Crimson Glory was a 4-year-old at that stage. She had done very well as a 3-year-old and as an older 4-year-old, so she was, we considered her a champion. And so going back to La Paloma, She had a couple other fillies by local knowledge, another dove and Love Dove, who raced and won a few races, and they another dove subsequently became a brood mare, and she's the dam then of Oba Dove, the Derby winner of 2002, who was by Boomerang.
And Blackbird.
And Blackbird, yeah,
Yeah.
who came second in Derby, yeah.
And Ginger Dove won the Derby.
Yeah.
With that wealth of information, it then leads me to dive straight into Veer's strong point. He's bred 2 Triple Crown winners, Coolbird and Zook. And he's also had 4 Derby winners. And when we look at the stamina line, Veer, first of all, has Pedigree always been important to your breeding operation?
Yes, most definitely. You could as well. I figured you try to breed the best of the best, and I would always look to try and pick out a well-known stallion in England. And even if they're long-distance horses, I don't mind once I have the class. I think there will a horse that say is a long-distance horse, like the father of Happy Style, no, Stylish Run.
Run Gauntlet.
Run the Gauntlet. He was a 16 furlong horse, and people thought that I shouldn't have brought a horse by Run the Gauntlet because he would want too much distance. And he produced Happy Style, who won the Derby too. And Happy Style really and truly was not a 9 furlong horse, although she won the Derby, but she was more of a 7 furlong horse. But in my opinion, once you have the class of top horse, like if you get a Galileo or Frankel or Saddler's Wells, once you go for class, I think that's the really big advantage is.
In terms of breeding, I found that all your mares have a strong stamina influence. Lady Jasmine, Ray Dove, which Sean spoke about, and Stylish Run. Was that deliberate?
Yes, because I picked out the particular horse I picked out because of the stallions again, the father. I don't like 5 furlong races. I like 7 and 9s. So,
As a breeder, you kept hunting in Europe, in the European market. Was there any specific reason?
in England, they're all grass horses. In America, they're sand horses. And I believe there is a difference. Even in England, when you have a horse that runs both on turf and all-weather tracks, they have two different ratings. And very often, the better of the two ratings is on turf.
Okay, you've done exceptionally well winning 2 Triple Crown races, actually producing 2 Triple Crown horses in Coolbird, which you own, one in 1989, and Zook, who ran away with the Triple Crown in 2006, which was sold to, I think, Richard Edwards. Now, you've also been credited with breeding 4 Derby winners, Happy Style in 1985, Oba Dove 1990, and, Ginger Dove in 1990 and Oba Dove in 2002. Of course, Coolbird was in 1989. But when we talk about racing and we talk horses, there are few horses that would draw a crowd to the Garrison. Coolbird. Elaborate on this, his magnificent achievement on the track.
Coolbird was an exceptionally good 7 furlong horse again. Coolbird and Sanford Prince met on 14 occasions, and both of them won 7 races. 7 to Coolbird, 7 to Sanford Prince. But whenever Coolbird won a 7 furlong race, he would go up 3 pungs, and he would be 3 pungs above Sanford Prince. So he was at a slight disadvantage then. Although I don't think 3 pungs makes such a big difference. A lot of trainers think it would. I don't. I might be wrong. But that was the difference. But Sanford Prince was definitely a better 9 furlong horse than Coolbird. And Coolbird, in my opinion, was a better 7 furlong horse. So.
And
I'm so about Zook. I leased Zook to John Louis, and he's really the man that picked out the breeding for her for a year. So that there came out, and it came out all right. And then I went back. I took her back then and went back to Carpe Diem on 2 occasions. There were 2 good horses. Strange enough, Zook was a bay, And the other two that I bred were chestnuts, and both of them came down with a tendon problem, which I think they inherited it from Carpe Diem, because he didn't have the best legs really. He was a good stallion, but not for tendon problems.
Okay, you excelled with mares when it came to the breeding of horses. The average breeder opted to go with the colts. Let's go back to, let's say, the 1940s. Can you bring us some insight into, let's say, for instance, horse OTC between 1940 as a stallion to 1940? Then he threw 5 Derby winners, and that's your field Derby winners. So I'm going to work my way down to Boomerang. Tell us about OTC in 1940.
Well, I was young in 1940. I would only been, I'm only now 86, but in 1940, how old I would be? 34 from 46, 7 years old. But I knew them even a long time after 1940. And the one that I used to like was Battlefront. He was a good horse. And actually the first broodmare that he had was a horse called Dulcibella. They had trained her under Dulcibella, and then someone bought and changed the name to Dorothy. She came from Grenada, and her breeding was Milene Videla. She was a full sister to April 11th, and I remember April 11th very clearly. And the horses that I used to like in those days was Free Fun and Grand Chachus. They were my favorite horses as a young boy. I used to love them. But Grand Free Fun, I think one morning was walking home. She had to walk from the garrison to Toys, and she died with a heart attack.
So it all got started for you up towards before you moved down this year.
Yeah.
Okay, in 1950, Burning Bow, which is owned by Cyril D. Bernard, threw 4 Derby winners. Can you elaborate again?
I had a few horses from him too to play polo, but he also had excellent brood mares. He brought all of his mares from England as well, and stallions. He had Burning Bow, and another stallion he had was Felicitas. And another one. But again, he had all English horses, never any American horses.
Clearly, predominantly back then, most of the horses, these for breeding purposes, obviously came out of England. In 1960 to 1971, the most successful stallion would have been Pride of India, 6 Derby winners.
Yeah. Well, I was very fond of Pride of India because at that time I was working at Buckley, and Pride of India was there, and I was more or less looking after him. So I got to like him a lot.
Then we moved down to 1985, which is a lot closer to when I was alive then. I'm still alive. The 1992 Happy Boy 5 winners, and I think there's something special about Happy Boy here for you.
Yeah, Happy Boy, never banged out of a Prince Quilla mare. Excellent breeding, you can't get better. And I was old Prendergast recommended him to me, and I said, all right, I would take him. And I had a friend that was coming as a partner, but then he backed out. And I asked Mr. John Messiah if he would put it to the Turf Club, if they would take over Happy Boy. And thank God it came back and said yes. And we got him quite cheap. And the Turf Club took him and used him as a stallion. And I'll tell you a story that is what made me become a member of the Turf Club, because when he came, I said, well, I have a mare that I want to send to him. And would you believe that one member of the Turf Club at that time told me, well, we're only accepting members' mares, not outsiders yet. I said, well, if that's the case, I would join the Turf Club. And I joined the Turf Club because of that when Happy Boy came.
Thanks very much to the hard-working Linden Yard. And of course, the first part of the Variant Davis was so good, so nice, we have to do it twice. So in our next edition, we're going to have part 2 of that engrossing interview with Mr. Davis. I'm Andy Thornhill. Bye-bye for now. Thanks for being part of the experience. This is Barbados Racing.